So today we're going to talk about interval notation. Interval notation is a way to write solutions to inequalities. When we work with equal signs, we just get a specific number of solutions, right? We get a couple, maybe at maybe one, maybe two, maybe none, but we usually write x equals. But when we have inequalities, we get whole sets of numbers oftentimes as our solution. So these are some examples of solutions of inequalities, right? I've got them simplified down to x is less than or x is greater than down here. And I think the easiest way to learn interval notation is kind of thinking of it as I first draw a picture. Okay, so when I draw a picture of this solution, here's my 3, and just a reminder that because of this equal sign, the 3 is included. And so that means I have a filled-in circle is what I like to use for my 3 that's included. And it means x is less than 3, so basically everything's smaller than 3. So my solution looks like this. Okay? Now when I use interval notation, I kind of like to draw this because the way that I write my solution basically is from left to right. So based upon my solution, now when I'm doing this, if I use an open parenthesis for basically an open circle, and I use a bracket for a closed circle. Okay, so that's what these different symbols mean. So I use a set of parentheses, and when I use a normal set of parentheses, that means that that point that's right next to it is not included, and if I use a bracket, then that means it is included. Okay, so not included, included. Okay, so in our case, the 3 is included. Now I start from left to right. So when my graph goes off, down, 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 right, it's going in a negative direction. If I think of positive going to the right and negative going to the left, then since there's no specific stopping point, we say that that's negative infinity. Okay, so negative infinity is the furthest left solution. Now with infinities, because we only use the square bracket when it's included, and that means it stops at a specific number, we always use open parentheses when we use negative infinity or infinity. Right? So basically the smallest solution is somewhere down here. We can't really name it, it's so small, so we just call it negative infinity. And then our solutions stop here at 3. So we use, it's kind of like an ordered pair, except it's not an ordered pair. So 3 is the biggest number and it's included, so I use the square bracket. So this x is less than or equal to 3 can be represented by this graph. It can always also be represented by this interval notation. Okay, so x is less than 3 is got a very similar picture. Right, so there's my 3. It's open circle, and the inequality is going the same direction. So my picture looks like this. So again, right, I'm going off here to the left to no specific negative number. So I just call it negative infinity, and the biggest thing, it stops here at 3, but 3 is not included, so I use just an open set of parentheses. Okay, so that's how we write. This is the same as this, and this, all the same. This is our interval notation version. Okay, so what if I have x is greater than or equal to 3? So that this time my picture is going the opposite way. Here's my 3. It's filled in, but this time bigger than 3. So now from left to right, 3 is the smallest thing. You know, I kind of scan from left to right, and I come up, and here's 3 is the first thing. So 3 is the first thing that's basically the farthest to the left. It's included, so I'm going to use a square parenthesis here. This time my graph is going off, off, off into a positive direction, which we just call positive infinity. And again, just like negative infinity, I always use a rounded bracket or a rounded parenthesis. Okay? All right, so then this one, kind of just like this one, is almost the same. It's just that my 3 isn't included. It's open and it goes this way. So the only difference here is the furthest to the left is 3, but 3, not exactly 3, so I use a rounded parenthesis, and then it goes off to infinity. Okay? All right, so let's see. We have x between, right, negative 3 and 4. So the way that we would draw that, there's negative 3, there's positive 4, and I have open circles here and here, and this is what the solution looks like. Okay, so that means my interval, they're both open parentheses. I kind of scan from left to right. I bump into this -3 is the first thing. It's not included, so I have a rounded parenthesis here. It stops up here at 4. Also not included, rounded parenthesis. All right, so here they're both included. So here's -3, here's 4, and so now I have included -3, included, +4. Okay, so these, right, without me drawing them, I'm just going to kind of write them down. So this time I have an equal sign with the -3, so that means the -3 is included, but the 4 isn't included. So I can have all different iterations, right, combinations of these bracket and parentheses. Then for this one, the -3 isn't included, and the 4 is included. Okay, so all the ones that we have dealt with so far have been completely my solutions have been completely connected. Now this next one is the first one that we'll come across that's not connected. Right, so if I have x can't be 2, then that means the only thing on my number line it's open, and I have something that looks like this. So everything except for 2 I can use as my domain. So the way that I do this, okay, so anytime I have a hole or any kind of break in my graph, then that means I'm going to have a break in my parentheses. And we attach our parentheses with this U. So basically that means it's a union sign, and it's just a way of saying basically or. Okay, so I go from left to right. So here's my first, I'm just going to ignore this part, my first part. Okay, so from left to right, we always start from the left. I go from -infinity up until this 2. Again, rounded parenthesis for -2, or from -infinity, and also it stops at 2, but I know that 2 isn't included, right? So I close my parentheses, I've got more solution to go, so I tack in this U. Just means that also this part, okay? So now this part also starts at 2, but 2 is not used, and goes off to +infinity. And so that's how I leave out one value, okay? So let me just draw some other types. I'm just going to draw the number line, okay? So let's say I have a -1 here, and this is a closed circle, and it's going in this direction. And I have maybe a 4 here, and this is open and goes in this direction. Okay, so here I have a break, so that means I'm going to have a U between them. So I kind of like write this part separately. So I'm off in -infinity land. I go up to -1 for this first part, and -1 is included. I have a break, so I toss in my U, and then I pick back up here at 4, which is not included, and I go off to +infinity. Okay, so this is just the basics, a quick run through on interval notation. It's another way of writing solutions to inequalities.